Hi, welcome to Lesson 8, Qualifying Clients. In some companies you will be given qualified leads, in others you'll have to find and qualify your own leads. So what happens if your prospective client doesn't want to buy your product? Not just from you, from anyone. This means that the client has not been correctly qualified by whoever produces your leads. What's gone wrong? Once a lead has been identified as someone who needs or wants to buy your product or service, then it must be established that they have the authority to buy and the ability to pay. This is important, otherwise you will waste time preparing for and presenting to people who will not buy, no matter how compelling a presentation you have put together. So, 4 steps in qualifying a lead or prospect are: 1. Finding the people who need or want your product or service. 2. Establishing they have the ability to pay for your product or service. 3. Ensuring the prospect has the authority to make the purchase. And 4. Getting an appointment. You will inevitably come up against unqualified leads, whether you're in front of a professional buyer who's finally agreed to see you to get rid of your pestering phone calls, or a couple who've given in to a telemarketer in a moment of weakness, but have now decided that they don't want whatever you're selling. How can you retrieve the situation? You need to build a case from the ground upwards for your product, so you must always have in your armoury the tools to do that. You've probably seen those TV shopping channels selling things you didn't know you needed until you saw the amazing product and the difference it would make to your life after you have the product. This is easy to do when you have a camera crew and a team of presenters, runners and researchers at your disposal. Trickier though for you to replicate just on your own. But this is what you must do if you're to win the sale. First, you must establish a need for the product before you start your presentation. Can you produce some research or figures from a reliable independent source that demonstrates a need for your product? For example, X% of adults don't have a will in place, so there is a danger their assets may go to the Crown. Y% of the population do not have adequate pension arrangements. You must be able to quote an authoritative source and ideally have something to physically show them to back up the claim. Note that people often buy to avoid pain, not to seek pleasure. People do not make a will for enjoyment, they make one to avoid leaving a problem for their heirs. Smokers quit to avoid paying for cigarettes more often than to improve their health. So, what kind of facts will help you prove the need for your product? This depends on the product. Perhaps it's weather related, a legal issue, business trends, the economy, health matters. You need to collate some facts. Try a professional institute or body if there is one, or chambers of commerce, research organisations, professional websites. Keep an eye on newspapers, magazines and journals for relevant articles to cut out and keep in your presenter. Be aware there may be influencers in the buying process who are not necessarily in front of you when you're pitching your product. You need to take account of them in your qualifying process and handling of the potential sale, involving them if possible and appropriate. For example, in a business-to-client situation, if you're quoting for a kitchen installation, there may be other family members whose opinion will have a bearing. Perhaps an adult son or daughter whose opinion will be sought before any substantial purchase is made, or someone who's recently undertaken a similar project, or who has some specialist knowledge. In a business-to-business situation, many sales organisations will have a guardian angel within an organisation they're selling into. For example, it could be someone who has a close working relationship with and some influence over the buyer, perhaps their manager or director, who in exchange for, say, information about frontline product news, will be prepared to champion your product above others. These influencers should be identified and qualified if possible. Exercise. Research some useful facts that establish a need for your product and put them in your presenter. Consider how you would qualify leads for your clients.